In today's top stories, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has signed a presidential decree for the holding of the legislative elections on the 2nd of July to renew the members of the National People's Assembly. Mauritania's Prime Minister, Mr. Mukhtar Ould Jay, is in Algiers on an official visit, heading a high-level ministerial delegation to participate in the 20th session of the Algerian-Mauritanian High Joint Committee for Cooperation. The head of the European Council called for de-escalation in the Middle East, rejecting as unacceptable and illegal any attack targeting Iran's civil infrastructure. Hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International. I'm Jamal Samani. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has signed a presidential decree for the holding of the legislative elections on the 2nd of July to renew the members of the National People's Assembly. In this respect, the Independent National Electoral Authority has announced in a statement the launch of a special review of the electoral roll from the 12th to the 26th of April, ahead of the forthcoming elections. The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces and Minister of National Defense, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has chaired a meeting of the Council of Ministers devoted to the examining of a draft law on the conduct of commercial activities, as well as to presentations made on the mechanization of the agricultural sector and on the mining sector. The details with Mr. Sharfi.
Regarding the mining sector, the President of the Republic stressed the need for the next stage to match Algeria's ambitions, which are rooted in the vision of a secure economic power and diversification as the foundation of a truly emerging nation, based on credible figures from the ground. To this end, the President has ordered that an exploration plan for this sector be presented to the Council of Ministers as soon as possible, which must define accurately and in detail the priority defined for the next phase, while rigorously setting out the timelines for exploitation and production. He said that the mining exploration in this strategic sector should rely entirely on technology, as well as on local human resources and Algerian expertise abroad, or through partnerships set up with friendly and allied nations. Regarding agriculture, the President of the Republic urged the Minister of Sector to ensure full readiness for the upcoming harvest season, which is expected to be of high quality given the favorable climate conditions. In a bid to achieve positive results, the President of the Republic also reiterated the need to provide the necessary machinery to farmers at the national level and to give priority to mechanization based on scientific and professional criteria, taking into account the area under cultivation and production volumes. During the cabinet meeting, President Tebboune ordered an increase in the production capacity of the desalination plant in the southeastern province of Ain Saleh, in line with a forward-looking approach linked to future population growth. The President also emphasized the importance of ensuring the provision of the best possible services to citizens in terms of drinking water supply, given the diversity of sources for this vital resource, particularly the significant role now played by seawater desalination plants at the national level in ensuring water security. Before concluding the Council of Ministers meeting, the Minister of State in charge of Foreign Affairs, the National Community Abroad and African Affairs, Mr. Ahmed Attaf, announced that Algeria will recover more than $110 million in misappropriated and frozen funds from the Swiss Confederation, noting that 33 letters of request had been sent to the Swiss Confederation, 20 of which had been examined and agreed on. In this respect, the President of the Republic expressed his thanks to the Swiss Confederation and the Kingdom of Spain for Algeria's recovery of the misappropriated funds, noting furthermore that 61 letters of request sent to France in this context have remained unanswered.
President Tebboune has received a message of condolence from the President of China, Xi Jinping, following the death of former head of state Liu Mingzhuo, expressing his deep sympathy to the family of the deceased, the government and the Algerian people. The Chinese president reaffirmed his country's solidarity with Algeria, as well as its willingness to work together towards achieving a new and greater development of the comprehensive strategic partnership relations linking the two friendly countries. An authorized source of the Foreign Affairs Ministry told the Algerian press service about the interview granted by France's national anti-terrorist prosecutor Olivier Christian to France Info that he referred to Algeria in an airy, thoughtless and irresponsible while revoking or evoking procedures set up for state terrorism charges. It stressed that such an accusation was unjustified and could but trigger off indignation and contempt. It pointed out that such an allegation was reprehensible, as it constitutes a vain aggression carried out against Algeria, which has been representing, for the French context, a scapegoat and distraction. Still in Algiers, the Secretary of State to the Foreign Affairs Minister in charge of the National Community Abroad, Sofiane Shaib, has received the head of the International Organization for Migration, IOMS, mission to Algeria, Lalin Versami. The meeting centered on the cooperation existing between Algeria and the organization, notably on the exchange of expertise. Mauritania's Prime Minister Mr. Mokhtar Ould is in Algiers on an official visit, heading a high-level ministerial delegation to participate in the 20th session of the Algerian-Mauritania High Joint Committee for Cooperation. The visiting Mauritanian official was received by his Algerian counterpart, Sifi Gharaib. The visit reflects the positive momentum in bilateral relations between Algeria and Mauritania. The Joint High-Level Committee on Cooperation is devoted to examining ways of developing the bilateral partnership, encouraging investment and facilitating trade, with particular attention paid to the development of border regions and the strengthening of economic integration between the two countries. Now to the Middle East, as the international non-governmental organization Oxfam announced the new Israeli law on death penalty as a new act of a horrifying violence. At least 15 Palestinians have been arrested over the past 24 hours by the Israeli army in the West Bank. More with Mariam Barshi.
The arrest took place during operations carried out by the Israeli occupying forces in various governorates of the Palestinian territory, including Ramallah, Qalqilia and Hebron. The Prisoners' Club stated that the arrests took place amid acts of aggression and intimidation carried out against the detainees and their families, as well as acts of sabotage and destruction targeting their houses. It affirmed that over 22,000 Palestinians have been arrested in the West Bank, including occupied Jerusalem, since October 2023. Meanwhile, the non-governmental organization Oxfam denounced the news. The new Israeli bill on death penalty, recently adopted by the Israeli parliament as a tailored law to be enforced only for the Palestinians. The NGO's campaign engagement lead, Shaista Aziz, stressed that such a law confirms the existence of an institutionalized system of discrimination and systematic oppression aiming the Palestinian people. It went on to say that by adopting such a law, the Israeli authorities have endowed themselves of a new means of dehumanizing, repressing and killing the Palestinians. In the meantime, the Israeli army pursued its airstrikes against Gaza, killing at least 2 Palestinians in the southern area of Khan Yunis.
As the situation is deteriorating in the Middle East and the Gulf region, the head of the European Council called for de-escalation, rejecting as unacceptable and illegal any attack targeting Iran's civil infrastructure, particularly the energy sites. You're listening to Radio Algeria International. Stay tuned.
Algeria's strategic projects continue to be at the heart of the country's high authorities, particularly those in the mining sector, which are expected to ultimately provide the national economy with locally sourced raw materials, which are currently imported. To ensure the smooth running of these projects, the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, ordered the implementation of all necessary measures to further advance these strategic projects and adhere to their completion deadlines. President Tebboune also instructed the government to coordinate among various sectors and intensify efforts while closely monitoring these mining projects, emphasizing the need to overcome any obstacles they may encounter. These instructions underscore the importance attached to this sector, which is expected to play a crucial role in the country's economic development in the near future. Among these structuring mining projects, we find the Tel Hamza Wada Mizor Zinc and Lead project in the Wilaya of Bijaya. The Tel Hamza Wad Amizur zinc and lead project is a high-grade zinc and lead project located within the Wad Amizur permit area on the Mediterranean Sea, approximately 15 kilometers from the province of Bijaya in eastern Algeria. The mine is owned by Western Mediterranean Zinc, WMZ, a joint venture between Termin Australia and two state-owned government entities, namely INOF and ORGM. The launching of construction of the Tel Hamza Wad Amizur zinc and lead processing plant last November marked the year 2023 in Bijaya and concretely marked the start of the completion of this mining project, which took 17 years before it finally saw the daylight. It took a special effort over the last 2 years to get the project out of the administrative and technical obstacles it had gone through for almost 2 decades, and thus allow its start with all the positive impacts expected after it will enter into production. Indeed, the Tel Hamza Wad Amizur zinc and lead project, which covers an area of 23.4 hectares, has one of the largest reserves in the world in this area and is part of the structural and promising mining projects from the country. Beyond all its multiple benefits, the project is of a global scope, and its economic importance is likely to position Algeria on the international market, according to the Minister of Energy and Mines, Mohamed Arqab, who estimated that the exploitation of the deposit will strengthen the performance of the mining sector and the creation of added value in support of the diversification of the national economy. The project will also create hundreds of direct jobs and thousands of indirect ones, mainly for the benefit of the local communities who live around the mining area. We had an interview with the Managing Director of the Western Mediterranean Zinc, WMZ, the joint venture in charge of running the Tel Hamza Wad Amizur zinc and lead project, Ms. Miriam Twati, about the various aspects of the project. Ms. Twati, hello and welcome to Radio Algeria International.
Thank you.
First of all, could you please give us a small overview of the Tel Hamza Wad Amizur zinc and lead project, how it started and who started it?
Tel Hamza Wad Amizur zinc and lead project is a joint venture between the Algerian public company Sonarem. It's the National Mining Research and Exploitation Company through its 2 subsidiaries, INOF and ORGM. So this JV, this joint venture, was created in 2006 under the name of Western Mediterranean Zinc, WMZ. So the Algerian part, INOF and ORGM shareholding is 51%, and Termin Australia shareholding is 49%. The main objectives of the joint venture is the evaluation of the Tel Hamza Amizur zinc and lead deposit reserves, exploration of the surrounding area of the deposit, carrying out the technical and economical feasibility study, and finally, operation of the deposit.
The Ministry of Energy and Mines has recently affirmed that all technical and financial conditions have been met for the effective launch of the project. When will the project kick off officially?
Yes, actually a detailed feasibility study was carried out by internationally renowned offices, including several technical aspects like the exploitation, processing, environmental and impact, as well as the economic study. So all necessary studies have been completed and validated by the competent authorities to assess the impact of the deposit exploitation, which allows us to launch the project before the end of the year, inshallah.
The instruction of launching the project as soon as possible was given by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, during a Council of Ministers meeting. This is evidence of the importance the President personally grants to this mine. In your opinion, how will the project contribute to developing the region and enhancing Algeria's economy in general?
Yes, so it was actually the subject of the national conference held on October 7 of this year at the University of Bijaya, under the topic of the rarefaction of mineral resources and positioning of Algeria, also the role of the zinc lead deposit of Tel Hamza Wad Amizur. So the increased global demand for metals and associated products in many industrial sectors had led the rarefaction of some of them. Making access to this metal a direct issue on international markets. Hence, certainly the need to put in place proactive solution in the field of research, prospecting and exploitation to ensure their availability and meet local demand while reinforce Algeria's share in the global market. So the Zinc and Lead mine project with its 53 million of tons of resources and exploitable reserves of 34 million tons for a production of 2 million tons per year meet this local need and yes, certainly reinforce the share of our country in the world market without forgetting, of course, the local adventures like the creation of more than 700 direct jobs and 4,000 indirect jobs for the benefits of the university graduates, vocational training centers, and also the young people in the region.
The first feasibility study was based on a mining method known as the block caving method, but was soon replaced by another method which is more eco-friendly and which has less footprint on the mining lease and the environment. Could you please give us more details on this particular method?
The first feasibility study was in fact based on a mining method block cave, the mass caving, but it was not quickly replaced as you mentioned, but it took 4 years from 2010 to 2014 to replace it by the backfill method, which required the redesign of all the feasibility study. So this operating method allows the extraction of ore in low resistance rock, which is the case of the rock in the area here, Tall Hamza and Amizour, and it consists of descending galleries to extract the ore which will be treated in the processing plant by a flotation system. Approximately 70% of the processing rejects from the plant will be used as a backfill inside the galleries, which makes the use of the tiling dam unnecessary. And the water coming from the mine is completely treated in the water treatment plant on inside the site of the mine, and this is what makes this method very protective for the environment.
So, Ms. Touati, allow me to go back to a very important aspect, which is the aspect related to the impact on the environment. How is this aspect tackled in the feasibility study? What can we say to reassure the citizens of the region and Algerians as a whole?
Yes, the environmental study were carried out by internationally renowned offices such as ATC William. So all the environmental aspects were carefully studied: hydrology of surface and groundwater, biodiversity, air quality, noise pollution, climate, soil and river sediments, water management plan, cultural and archaeological legacy, visual aesthetics. So, and also as I explained earlier for the extraction method, the back and fill, it's a very protective method for the environment.
Ms. Touati, thank you very much indeed for this rich interview. I recall that you are the Director General of Western Mediterranean Zinc, WMZ, which is the joint venture in charge of managing the project in Algeria. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
It is worth recalling that during the last commemoration of the National Day of the Nationalization of Mines, the Minister of Energy and Mines, Mohamed Arkab, laid special emphasis on the Tall Hamza Wad Amizour Zinc and Lead project, describing it as one of the priorities of the state. To travel back in time and learn about the most prominent events that marked human history, no need for a time machine. Echoes of Time with our colleague Mariam Bershi is your only address. A program broadcast to you every week on Radio Algeria International.
Welcome to Echoes of Time, the program where we travel across centuries to uncover the defining moments that shaped human civilization. I'm your host, Mariam Bershi, And today we're stepping into the Yamato period of Japanese history, spanning roughly from the 3rd to the 7th centuries. This era is a cornerstone of Japan's history, marking the transition from fragmented tribal societies to a unified political state under the rule of the Yamato clan. It is a time when myth meets history and the foundations of modern Japan were laid. Let's begin our journey back in time. To understand the Yamato period, let's first set the stage. Before this era, Japan was a land of independent clans, or uji, each controlling their own territories. These clans worshipped their own local kami, or spirits, and had no central authority to unite them. The rise of the Yamato clan changed everything. Based in what is now Nara Prefecture, the Yamato clan gained power through a combination of military strength, alliances, and control over fertile agricultural lands. By the 4th century, they had established dominance over other clans in the region. What gave the Yamato clan their unique authority was their claim to divine lineage. They asserted that their rulers were direct descendants of Amaterasu, the Shinto sun goddess. This claim not only legitimized their rule, but also helped them unify disparate tribes under a single spiritual and political framework. During the Yamato period, the rulers didn't rely solely on divine claims to maintain power. They were also skilled diplomats and military strategists. One of the Yamato state's most effective strategies was forming alliances with other powerful clans. Marriage was a key tool in this process. By intermarrying with other uji, the Yamato rulers solidified their influence and created a network of loyalty that extended across much of central and western Japan. But alliances were not always peaceful. The Yamato state often used military force to subdue rival clans. Evidence from coffin tombs, which contain weapons and armor, suggests that warfare was a common part of life during this period. By the 5th century, the Yamato rulers had established themselves as the central authority in Japan, with other clans recognizing their supremacy. This marked the beginning of Japan's first unified state. One of the defining features of the Yamato period was Japan's growing interaction with the Asian continent, particularly with China and Korea. These relationships were instrumental in shaping the Yamato state. From Korea, the Yamato rulers adopted critical technologies such as iron tools, advanced agricultural techniques, and horse riding skills. These innovations not only improved productivity, but also strengthened their military capabilities. From China, the Yamato rulers received even greater influence. By the 5th century, Japanese envoys were traveling to Chinese courts, and Chinese culture began to leave its mark on Japan. One of the most significant imports was the Chinese writing system. The introduction of kanji revolutionized governance by allowing the Yamato rulers to record laws, communicate more effectively, and strengthen their administration. Imagine the transformative impact of writing. For the first time, the Yamato state could issue decrees and record history, establishing a sense of continuity and structure that unified their people. Another major influence was Buddhism, which arrived in Japan from the Korean kingdom of Baekje in the mid-6th century. Initially met with resistance, it was eventually embraced by the Yamato rulers as a means of enhancing their prestige and aligning themselves with continental powers. Buddhism would go on to play a central role in Japanese culture, but during the Yamato period it coexisted with Shinto, the indigenous belief system. This blend of traditions became a hallmark of Japanese spirituality. Yamato period is often referred to as the coffin era, named after the massive burial mounds built for the elite. These tombs, shaped like keyholes, are some of the most iconic symbols of this era. The largest coffin, the Daisen-Yoro coffin, is believed to be the resting place of Emperor Nintoku. Measuring over 500 meters in length, it's one of the largest tombs in the world. What makes these tombs remarkable isn't just their size, but what they tell us about the Yamato rulers. The scale of the coffin demonstrates the Yamato state's control over labor and resources, while the grave goods inside reveal a society with strong connections to both local and foreign cultures. Surrounding these tombs were haniwa, terracotta figures shaped like warriors, animals and houses. These figures served ritual purposes and give us a fascinating glimpse into life during this time. By the late 6th century, the Yamato state began to evolve. The adoption of Buddhism and increased contact with China brought about significant changes